Welcome to another edition of the Mael Time podcast. In Brookline, Massachusetts, Chabad of Chestnut Hill's plans to build a new center have hit a roadblock. Despite unanimous approval from the local planning board, the zoning board's three-person panel denied the necessary variances due to a single dissenting vote, a decision that, under Brookline bylaws, must be unanimous. Rabbi Mendy Uminer, leading the Chabad effort, expressed deep concern, stating that it isn't merely about architecture, but about denying a community its legal and religious right to gather and pray. Having previously won a legal battle to demolish an aging structure on the site, Chabad now faces renewed challenges. Despite accommodating numerous requests such as removing a rooftop deck and 2 classrooms, the zoning board's demands persisted. Frustrated by the impasse, Rabbi Uminer plans to pursue legal action, potentially reinstating previously withdrawn designs. It's been interesting to watch this on Facebook, and I reached out to Rabbi Uminer, who is kind enough to join us today. So, Rabbi, thanks for making the time.
It's my pleasure, Daniel. I remember you from back when you lived in Newton, Massachusetts, down the street from Chestnut Hill. And it's amazing to see you and your family grow, and the Yiddishkeit and all that you've been doing for Israel, which is an inspiration for all. As you see from my yarmulke, it's something that's very important to me myself. We moved here, and we got married in 2000. I got married in South Africa, actually. I married a girl from South Africa whose parents founded Chabad in South Africa 50 plus years ago under the Rebbe's directive. And I moved to Chestnut Hill in 2001. We got married in 2000. I moved here in 2001 after the passing of the Rebbe. It was through the inquiry of some Jewish people here. And when we actually moved here in the beginning, believe it or not, I lived in North Brookline off of Beacon Street for a few years. And I walked 4 miles every weekend. We started a little minion on VFW Parkway, which is in West Roxbury, actually, on the border of Brookline and West Roxbury. And then in 2003, we bought our current location, which is on Bellingham Road, only a block away from where we want to build now. And we've thrived. We've grown with the brachas of Hashem and the guidance of the Rebbe, of blessed memory. We have a day camp of 300 kids every summer. We have a Hebrew school of 60 plus kids every week. We have daily minyan. Friday night, Shabbos day, we get over 100 people, 20, 30 children. We have a children's program. We have classes every week. We have a very strong women's group, a Jewish business network. And I mean, Rosh Hashanah and Kippur, we actually rent out the Baker School, which is in Brookline, the public school. And we could get 500 adults, 250 kids. It's been, Baruch Hashem, tremendous. Most of the people that come are not observant and are searching for something refreshing, something that they may call inspiring, uplifting, authentic, and that's what brings them to us. We cover all the spectrums. We have people from Rashi, from Solomon Schechter, the Reform Day School, the Conservative, the Maimo, Torah Academy, everything, public school kids, and so on. So when we bought our place in 2003, we knew it was going to be a temporary place. We converted an old house. Originally, I lived there. I've moved twice since, and I'm in my home actually now. This house is a small house. It's about 4,000 square feet, and we used it looking to build. Now, in Brookline, it's very hard to find land. It's one of the most built-up places. Unlike Newton and Needham, there's not many empty lots. And in order to find something that would be sufficient to build a proper center that could accommodate our celebrations and our life that we use, we needed something unique. And we've been searching for probably 15 years, and we had a few things that fell through. We tried to buy there was a church down West Roxbury Parkway that sold and became apartments, and we've tried many things. In the interim, we've been renting from Temple Emeth, which has a smaller membership than they used to have, and they don't use a lot of the building. We use their social hall for bar mitzvahs. We do our Purim parties there. We rent out in the mall. We during COVID, we did Lars Anderson Park, which is the beautiful park overlooking Boston here in Brookline, and so on. A few years ago, I found out through a broker who was really an amazing woman who has been helping us search pro bono, actually. And she said to me, Mendy, we found you. I was meeting with this lady who's looking to buy a condo. I said, why are you buying a condo? She said, I'm selling my mother's house on 100 Bellingham Road, which is 4 houses, maybe 8 houses down from where we are. It's right around the corner, literally a 1/10 of a mile less. And we're on Bellingham Road. I said, wow, that's amazing, because someone that I know is selling next door. This is perfect. So I immediately went, and that weekend I signed the contract on the house next door without telling anyone, and then we negotiated with this corner house, and we bought them both within a weekend. We closed on this last year, the end of October, and we hired a world-class architect, one of the best in town, someone who doesn't do commercial necessarily, does more very high-end residential. He did the head of Bain Capital, the head of many of the most beautiful homes. He's a very famous guy. His name is Adolfo Perez, Cuban man, lovely guy, never did a show. But we wanted something that would be beautiful and be wow, but also that would fit in more residential, more warmth than just a commercial building. So we hired him, and then we met with a guy, Jeffrey Allen, who's the preeminent zoning lawyer in Brookline, goes all the way to the lands court in Massachusetts. He's an awesome guy, a Jewish guy, secular man, but really cared for our project, and that's where we started. The first thing we did after we hired him was we went to the town, and now the town of Brookline wants to discourage larger buildings in general, so they created this preservation committee, which you have in many towns, where you have to go to them before you could tear down a house, and they deem if your home is called historical, and if it's historical, they can make you wait a year or two to rip it down, and they try to slow the pace and up the cost so people shouldn't have to rip it down. Now, obviously, none of these homes are remotely historical, but it could be that in that context they would have deemed it that way, and we came in front of the preservation committee, and our lawyer said to them, listen, there's the RIOPA federal law, which allows you to build by right for any religious institution, and you denying us in any way would be against a federal law. And the preservation said, we don't care about federal laws. We only care about historical. And they denied us. So we came to the town, and I said, we're going to sue. This is an easy case. And this town met with us and said, listen, we know you're going to win. We agree, the town council agreed that it was within our right to build. Why don't we make a deal? You won't rip the houses down until you finish your zoning hearing and other certain conditions, and we will tell the town council, our town council will agree to the law. I don't know if they made that deal or that was the insinuation. We were going to sue. They said, could you promise us to keep these conditions? Which we did, and we filed a lawsuit, and the next day there was a verdict from the judge. Then we went on to the zoning. We made a meeting with the neighbors first. Over 100 neighbors came. We made it outside in our tent. Now, besides having a tiny Chabad house that's full every week, we have a tent that's out almost all year, 2 tents, which we use to service just the regular programs. Other than the cold months, even now we're using it, literally. Even though it's 40, 50 degrees, we use it because we don't have a choice. So we met with the neighbors, and it was screaming, and it was testy. It wasn't very conducive to any negotiations. And the bottom line was, hey, we don't want you here. Find somewhere else to go. It wasn't about that our size was big, which it was. It wasn't about how could we maybe accommodate the neighbors. It was, this is not a place for you. It's a quiet block, etc., etc. Now, just to explain, you we're on a corner street. One side is quiet, the other side is a 4-lane highway. We're across the street from a cemetery. We're a block away from Temple Emeth, which is huge, and Putterham Circle, which has all the shops. So it's not like, but that was that. So we came and we went to the planning board in Brookline. We worked with them. The planning board listened to our things. They were upset about a few things. They felt we could do more on one of our sides to one of our direct abutters. And also they didn't like our roof deck, even though I thought it was really important for us. And it's not even a FAR issue. They didn't want it. So we came back. We really wanted to work with them. We did everything the planning board committed. We took off our roof. We took off our roof deck, We took off 2 classrooms on the side, which were right near our neighbor. We decreased the FAR by, I think, 8%. We moved the project in. We took our hallway in. We moved it away from the neighbors. More than any residential home would be.
So you were willing to play ball, basically.
Not only were we willing to play ball, listen, at the end of the day, you know what NIMBY is, right? Not in my backyard. I get why a neighbor will say, hey, I don't want a temple next to me, but the exact law of RIOPA, which is a federal law, and the Dover Amendment, which we should speak about too in Massachusetts, and the town bylaws in Brookline are there exactly to protect a religious organization, because no one does want them near them. And I get that. So we were ready to work with them. In fact, my lawyer went out privately to coffee with 2 members with an understanding that we would remove something and maybe they would support it, but they deceived us and they weren't ready to support it. We came to the planning board having removed everything, and the planning board made 2 remarks. They said they were super impressed with our architect. We understand why. He's the most high-end architect who did a remarkable job. We're super impressed with the way he masked the building, that even though it's a 22,000 plus square foot building, it doesn't look so overwhelming. Plus, they were impressed with us removing what we did. Also, our height doesn't override any setbacks. There are houses next to us that are higher than we are. Plus, the setbacks of our neighbors were only there because we have no setbacks for a residential home. We moved it now, so now we're in a setback because the town asked us to move it a little bit towards the street. But otherwise, we weren't in a setback. The only setback was our FAR, which we need for our temple.
And under the Dover Amendment, they're not even allowed to really ask you about it.
So under the Dover Amendment, which is much stricter than the federal law, they're not allowed to do a design review. They're not allowed to do a safety parking issue, because in the town bylaws, they're not allowed to require us to have 1 parking space, by the way. It's in the town bylaws. Plus, they're not anything within reason of what we need for our organization. They can't stop us. They're not allowed to. Now, we passed unanimously the planning board. They recommended us, which is not something that happens often on one of these cases. We came in front of the zoning board, 3 people. And from the get-go, this one guy, one of the 3 people, kept on. They all were very tough on us, very tough. I think overly tough. Even the chair of the zoning board, Johanna, said some things in her closing remarks, like how disappointed she was in us that we didn't make more room.
She said she was personally offended. I watched that, and I was
shocked. Yeah. Like, first of all, we met with the neighbors constantly. We shrunk our thing. And what do you mean we could have had more flex space? Our entire area is flex space. We would have wanted something bigger, but we understand we can't get it. Anyways, point being, this guy didn't want to hear anything. If you watch the zoning hearing, especially the second one, he has a disregard for the law. He keeps on speaking about common sense and about we don't belong in the neighborhood, which is the most shocking. First of all, I mean, Brookline is such a Jewish place. It's been so welcoming to the Jewish community. We've built so much in Brookline, and they're so welcoming in general. They speak about how they accommodate everyone. Yet, he didn't want to hear. And in fact, before they took the vote, my lawyer said, is there anything small we could do to tweak that would make you happy? And he said, no, he wanted wholesale changes, basically, which is not something we could do without compromising our program, which is against Dover and Riopa, et cetera, et cetera. Also, some of the neighbors, it was shocking. Like, one said, with so much anti-Semitism going on, why would we want to bring the anti-Semitism to our block? Which shocked me.
So by Jews congregating and being proud and learning about their Judaism, that would somehow bring anti-Semitism to your block.
Yeah, and I'll tell you even more. When we moved here and we bought our place in 2003, we had opposition then too. But we took an existing structure so they couldn't stop us. But I've been there for 20 years, and I asked the town and the police or anyone, did you ever get a complaint against Chabad? Once. Not once. Not only that, but I said, check the houses. Did the house price go up or down? Every house has been ripped down and built double the size. The value has, since we came there, has over doubled on every single house. We park on the street, but a lot of people walk to shul. It's once a week, maybe sometimes for a class. It's not like we never block people's driveways. People are considerate. We're, in fact, across the street from Temple Emeth now. They park all over. So it was
also, people can have parties at their house all the time, and it's a public spot. I understand that people might want to have a parking spot available in front of their own home, but it's not a crime to have someone park in front of your house.
I'll tell you something funny. It just shows you. We bought the houses almost 2 years ago, well, a year and a half ago. And since we bought it, every single morning, a neighbor who has a 1-car driveway pulls out one of the cars and parks it in front of our houses and leaves it there the whole day. I actually don't mind. In fact, in front of our Chabad house now, there are 2 bus stops for 2 private schools every morning and afternoon. And there's probably 10 or 15 cars. When we go out of services in the morning, there's probably 15 cars waiting there to drop off their kid. And I always go out and I say, hey, if you guys need a bathroom, there's a bathroom available in the shul. You're welcome to use our space. We get along. I mean, the fear mongering, like we were going to come and change the neighborhood. One lady said she was worried that she would hear kids crying. In fact, the zoning board made us agree to a condition that we would only use our playground 4 hours a day. Could you imagine that the kids would
That's your private property.
Yeah. And they wanted to condition us that we can't rent it out for bar mitzvahs and things. And we offered to meet with the neighbors about lighting. We offered to put in trees and privacy and pay for it by any neighbors that we could impact. Plus, let's be real. If you look at the homes we're ripping down, those homes are 100 years old, and some of them were in terrible condition. The gardens it was an eyesore. If you look at our plans, they're stunning. They're gorgeous. They're state of the art. I mean, and they're modern yet timeless. They're not. So it's beyond me how this could happen. And to me, it made me think. And I hate using the anti-Semitism word. And in fact, throughout our hearings, I was careful not to use it. We've had stories, Simchas Torah, we were dancing on the circle right here in Panorama Circle. I always take out the Torahs. I want to teach the kid Jewish pride. It's something that's remembered by everyone. I make somersaults in Panorama Circle, and we dance around the circle. And a car drove by and screamed, Allahu Akbar. We've had a case in front of my house just 6 months ago, which was caught on my video camera, of someone in a mask coming and ripping down my pro-Israel signs. But I didn't want to use the anti-Semitism word because I don't like using it in vainly. And I don't know what's guiding factor here. If it's a sense of snobbiness, oh, why should we agree? I don't know what this Wander Oge was bothering him. If it was something against religious institutions in general, if it was something against us particular as maybe Orthodox or Hasidic, I don't know. But it doesn't make sense. And I'll say one thing that really troubled me. If you watch, and I'm going to upload the third video, the town council, which is the lawyer that represents the town, was on the first meeting. And they asked him, the town members, the zoning members kept on asking him, are we allowed to do this? Are we allowed to do that? And he said, no. According to Dover, you can't ask them about parking. You can't ask them for a safety plan. You can't, they could project growth in their temple, and if as long as it's reasonable growth, you can't argue with that. It said you could ask them for documentation. So on the first meeting, the lawyer said, one of the zoning members, Mr. Geller, said, we want you to give us exact plan about every space, why you're using it and why you need it, which is fair. They want us to prove that it's under the Dover Amendment, protected. Our lawyer came back and gave every detail of it, which obviously satisfied those two members. And then one of the neighbors who wasn't supposed to speak got up and spewed a bunch of hogwash. For example, he said that they checked other Chabads that are smaller in the neighborhood, and why do we need such a big Chabad? For example, they quoted Chabad of Harvard, which is in litigation for years to build a big campus. And then I
But also, why is that relevant?
Right,
like everyone has. If you're Chabad if you're Chabad, for example, in Acton, there are going to be fewer Jews than Chabad of Chestnut Hill. Why is that relevant?
Not only that, I'll tell you more. They lied about the size of Chabad of Newton. Rabbi Prost, my dear friend, they said that it's only 12,000 square feet. I got a letter from the Chabad and from the zone and from the town. It's 18,500. I said, why are you comparing us only to Chabads? Compare us to temples in the area. We're smaller than anyone. And except one temple, we take up less % of our FAR than anyone else and any church in town. And no one has parking. So it was like we did all this. And then this guy kept on saying, incriminating beyond. He said, well, I just care about common sense. He kept on pushing off the Dover. And then he said, you don't belong in the area. Not once, not twice. And in fact, I'll tell you even more, that what was interesting is that he quoted the lies of the neighbors. And I caught him on that. I said, that's untrue. And there was just nothing to hear. He said, I'm going to vote against it, irrelevant. Now, is he up for election and he's looking to please some people? I don't know. But to me, it's shocking. And a town like Brookline that speaks about its openness and its progressiveness and its welcoming for everyone. We've been here for 25 years. We have a tremendous constituency. They got over 400 letters, I think, in support of this, from not just from our town, many from our town, from all over. We have, and I know through the grapevine that town members and selectmen have watched the zoning hearing and were shocked by what happened. And therefore, the selectmen asked us not to sue until they had their meeting, which they had this week. And now they said, could you negotiate once with the neighbors? Could you try to meet with them? Now, according to any law, we don't have to.
So why are you being asked to do that?
So I don't know if they want to see if who's being unreasonable. To be honest, I prefer to go straight to a lawsuit at this point. We've been through a year and a half, and if we go to lawsuit, we can put our roof deck back on. We get all the restrictions removed, and we'll win. There's no question that we're within our rights. We have no setbacks on height. We have no other setbacks except what the town asked us to do. The only setback is FAR, and it's large, but it's less than 90% of the religious organizations in town. And we proved that we need it.
So right, but I'm saying, but on what grounds can someone ask you to do something that, if you're legally protected and able to do that, why would you play ball with that? For example, if you had the Asian American Society that wanted to build a building, do you think that they'd be asking them to go meet with people in the same way? Or if there was a group that was targeted towards another minority, do you anticipate that they would ask these? Or do you think it's really because of the Jewish aspect?
Listen, there's no question that a lot of anti-Semitism has ticked up in our town too. I want to be careful not to call it what I'm unsure of, but there is no doubt that anyone that watched or followed our case, that we're being targeted against the law. Now, the reality is like this. I'm already here for 24 years, and I plan to stay here for many years to come. I would like to get along with our neighbors. I do where I am now. I love people. That's who I am. Jew and non-Jew alike. So how could a rabbi say no? They say, hey, could you sit down with the neighbors once and see if you could get to something? But what's more troubling to me is that there's a ruling from the town, from the land court of Massachusetts, that they have to give us the permits to rip down our 2 homes to build a shul. That's a ruling. And we've already 6 weeks ago filed everything. The inspector told me you're ready to get the permit, but they haven't given it to us, which is against, they're literally disobeying our ruling from the courts. So our lawyer reached out to them today, Wednesday, and said, we're not ready to meet anyone until we get our demolition permits that is written in the court law, unequivocal. They agree. The court said they have to let us. So they promised us we would hear back from them on Monday. If they allow us to tear it down, we're going to tear it down so we can prepare for building. And we're happy to meet once with the neighbors. And if not, we'll go to court. The other thing we're worried is that the town might procrastinate, especially to delay us in filing the verdict of the zoning board, because they don't want to end up in court. And they also are not pleased, I'm sure, with the things that were said against the law that will be brought up in a court of order that have to be in their decision. So they're delaying it. They have up to 90 days. It shouldn't take that long. It's already been almost a month. And we want them to file it immediately so we could proceed. We have costs of insurance. We have costs of safety because someone could get hurt. We have fences around the building for 3 months. And we have cost of keeping up a property without using it and having an old property. So we want to do this expedited. We've already been in litigation. We've been through 8 meetings. We've been through litigation for a year with them. And we prepared for that for 6 months. We want to start building. So we know that the court case will take time, and we would like to get there as soon as possible. And we are disappointed that the town will try to delay that.
So this is going on while your community is growing, is thriving. You're doing amazing work. Just for the listeners that tune in with a lot of the Israel related stuff and Jewish related stuff, what was the reaction after October 7th in your community specifically?
So I'll tell you what, we have a remarkable community that has come together in tremendous ways since October 7th. to help our local organizations, to send funds to Israel, to travel to Israel, to do rallies, demonstrations. In fact, just here in Newton, one of our dear friends, Emily, and her mom, Marjorie, and her husband, they've been every Sunday. We have the Newton Center um, rally for the hostages, which I've spoken at a few times, and I go to, and many in my community go there every single Sunday in the cold and the heat. And in fact, ironically, one of our members, one of the most famous signs at the beginning of October 7th that went viral was when he said that we should exchange some Ivy League students for the hostages. And he said, "I'll make everyone happy. I'll make the Hamas happy. I'll make us happy. I'll make the students, and I'll make America better." And it went viral. Actually, it was shared by everyone. But we have a very supportive community. We're very connected to Israel. We've been a bedrock for the community in our relationship with Israel, and doing more mitzvahs and doing more tefillin, Shabbos candle lightings, events, challah bakes, study groups. So we've been blessed. I haven't, other than them pulling off my signs and seeing many signs in the neighborhood popping up of free Gaza, stuff like that. It hasn't been that many. There's a lot of support here. So I feel blessed. And I would like to come to a resolution with the town. I love my town I live in. And I love what they've done for our community. But if they say they're so welcoming, and they're building these monstrosities of public schools of $200-300 million all over town, and they're allowing everything else, and there's these homes going up every day, and 122,000 square foot community center for someone that's here for 20 plus years searching, that literally is out in a tent every Shabbos for people in their community. I mean, they should be supporting us.
And you have an architect who is going above and beyond to make sure that it integrates well with the community. It's not like you're saying you're going to create your own.
Did you see
brand.
The drawings?
I did see those. Yes,
I could send you some more. They're just spectacular. They're so tasteful. They're so and it's only going to make the neighborhood look so much more beautiful. And it's only going to add. Listen, I do understand the momentary resistance to any building because of the noise that will be on for a year and a half. Even if we do it within every law, it's going to be messy for a year and a half. And I also understand the NIMBY. Everyone's scared of something coming, but we're going to enhance the neighborhood in every single way. There's no question. And that's what the town has to be supporting. We're respectful of our neighbors. We met with them. We tried to accommodate them. We're going to try once more, but we will not compromise the integrity of our organization, of what we need for our program. We will not compromise that. We want to have a mikvah. We want to have a teen center, a preschool, a religious preschool, a Hebrew school that we already have. And I even told them we have a camp of 300 children every single summer that we run out of Solomon Schechter. I said, we're not going to move it here. We're going to keep that there because we understand that it doesn't fit in the scope of it. So what else do you want us to do?
I sent a message to Wadner Oj via Instagram before we met here. Didn't hear back from him. If he agreed to come on and have a discussion, would you come back?
I would love that. I would love him to explain to me.
Yes. So I invited Wadner. He is one of the individuals, the one who voted no, because he wanted to invoke common sense. So for the average person out there, nobody really knows what he's talking about. So I'd love to hear Wadner's perspective on this whole take. I think it'd be fascinating if you guys came back.
I want to just tell you two more things. I wrote, I've been in touch with a lot of the selectmen. I wrote them a letter to all of them detailing, it's on the Facebook and I kept it pinned, detailing what we compromised, what laws we're following, and how and I said, don't believe me. I said, go watch the zoning hearings yourself. It's public. And then to help them, I hired a company to cut out the pieces that are relevant. You don't have to hear every person speak, me and my neighbors, but to cut out the discussions. And I know from people that have spoken that they're shocked. There is no explanation. Any person here that doesn't believe what I'm saying is more than welcome to watch, especially the second zoning hearing where they voted, and to hear the language used, and then to go look at the Reupa law, the Dover law, and the town bylaws in Brookline, and they'll see for themselves that we're not expecting the town to break the rules, but to keep the rules.
Right. And in fact, you're not. They kept invoking the rule and then saying, well, this is the law, but we have common sense. This is the law, but we have the common sense. So it's something that's outside of the law, which is extremely interesting. And again, I'm challenging if that would be brought up in the context of any other minority trying to have a center established.
And I'll tell you more. To me, the most shock. Listen, it was in the moment where the chair of the zoning board, who actually voted in our favor, pressured our lawyer to agree to a restriction on the playground. And I was so shocked by it. But my lawyer called me on the side. He took a pause. She told him to. And I said, Jeffrey, this is against every law. How could you deny kids to play? And what's during the day, people are at work, what they can hear a kid laughing? I mean, you should hear, if you heard.
First of all, it's a blessing to be able to hear that.
But you should hear the neighbors speaking on the zone. You could think they're living in some utopia where there's all you hear is birds chirping and they're living on the. Oh, it was shocking what they said. But I said, how could they deny us to have children use the playground? But he said, listen, Rabbi, you're risking that she's going to vote against you. So what should I say? So I said, you know what? If that's the case, we'll agree to, I think, 5 hours, which is ridiculous. And I actually prefer to challenge that because they also wanted to make us.
I think you should challenge it. It's completely absurd. It's one thing if you're out there at 5 in the morning.
To the police, we speak to the police all day. I have security every week, and
I think you should challenge that on the playground. It's one thing if you're out there at 5 in the morning. Of course, you shouldn't be out there at 5 in the morning. But if your kids want to go,
we already agreed to restriction from dawn to dusk.
Of course. So what is this? So say it's a really nice day out and people don't want to be stuck inside. They want to be outside for 5.5 hours.
They're not allowed to use it.
Yeah, what is that?
And the fact that they fought against our deck so much, roof deck, it would have helped us to have space on top. For security, it's important with what's going on. And it would have kept us actually further away from the neighbors. But there was such a fight, and I really wanted it. Certain things you got to give in. Anyways, I don't want to keep you here all day, but I watch what you do about Israel, and I'm passionate about that. And kol hakavod to you and the family that you're raising, and to everyone who's there. And if anyone wants to help us, they could write to the selectmen. That's it. I just want the selectmen to realize we're going to end up either in court or with a settlement within the next few weeks. We're not backing down. That's obvious. We have all our, but I think that the selectmen heard from 500 people. If they hear from 5,000, to understand how ridiculous and how it's being viewed. So ultimately the selectmen have the decision.
And I'll include this, and I'll include this in the show notes. And again, people might be wondering, this is a little bit not off topic, but it's tied in. And I think that when you see things that Jews are going through across the world, it's important to cover them and to provide, to provide a platform and to discuss these issues, because it's important, and it's really important that institutions like Chabad of Chestnut Hill are given the freedom to build within the law where they are lawfully allowed to congregate, so that they can continue to instill Jewish values, Jewish pride, love of Torah to people that want to come to the center. It's as simple as that. And it's an important issue.
I'll tell you more. Two other things I want to show. I mean, I showed you pictures earlier. We're celebrating someone's bat mitzvah tonight with a candle lighting ceremony and we're just 55, 60 people. But the way it was set up, we have to do it off Chabad. We have a Hebrew school every Sunday. We have no play. We're using these bedrooms. They used to be bedrooms, classrooms, and then we use the shul. And we have a Sunday morning minyan, and we have shakshuka, and we have study. We have to kick them out of shul to be able to. Then we wanted to have a class for the parents that drop off their kids for Hebrew school. During Hebrew school, parents could study too. It helps because it helps the kids be more involved if the parents are engaged. And it would have been we don't have the space. I mean, the amount of things that we would like to and could do, but are limited by, and for the neighbors to have the nerve and the town members to tell us, these zoning members who know nothing about what we're doing, and to tell us that we should shrink our project and we don't need the space. Did they visit for a Shabbat?
Yeah, the truth is that the second this building gets finished, and we've seen this at a number of other Chabad houses, the second this gets finished, you're gonna say, wow, the house really could have been twice as big, because so many people are coming and there's so many people connected and in tune with what's going on. So it's one of those things where, yes, for now it's a huge upgrade, but God willing, as things continue to go, you see that people engage and people really care about it, and they see it's an unbelievable opportunity. You see after October 7th, how many people started going to Chabad, how many people started saying, I want my kids to be involved. And it's an amazing thing. And people are better off when they're in tune with their religion. And it's a better thing. It's better for society. It's better for the town. It's a no-brainer.
This happens every day, but I'll tell you two stories that happened over the last 24 hours. I get a call from a guy in New York, a very successful businessman who I don't know, never met me, but he said he knows many Chabads. He says, I had a meeting with a guy in Chestnut Hill, very secular, successful guy. He goes to a temple that's very unaffiliated, and he was sitting with him over dinner. He said, I'm searching, and I want to find something, but he was nervous, apprehensive to meet the Chabad rabbi. He's totally secular. And the guy said, you got to meet the Chabad rabbi. It turns out we know his friend, and we're going to have Shabbos dinner. We're going to start studying. Today in the morning, I was taking my daughter to an appointment, 8 a.m., and I get a call, a voice message with a guy. He says he lives in the neighborhood. He wants to learn about our opportunities for learning. I never call back right away, but it comes to my cell phone. I said, I'm waiting in the waiting room. I called him back. The guy lives right here by Heath School in this area. And he says to me, he says, a few months ago, someone bought me, an acquaintance in Europe, bought me a pair of tefillin. And I started wrapping it every day. And he says to me, he says, Rabbi, it's changed my life. The way I feel, my connection to God, the way it's made me feel. And I love the place I'm involved with, but I feel like I'm searching for more. And I want to meet you and I want to hear about your class. And this has happened within the last 24 hours. We have I don't know how okay this is with some people. We have a Kiddush club in our show that meets during Haftorah and Yom Kippur. It's called the Under 40s Club. We have 15 to 20 people that go up every week. I don't go up. I'm too old. I'm 48. I don't go up, but they meet every week for 10 minutes. They have 15, 20 kids running around, just their own children, and they come to shul instead of everyone is searching since October 7th to be more connected. And it's our job to afford the space. And we're not going to go build a $20 million project and then limit it that we can't use it. That's pointless. We spend a few $1,000,000 on the land. We have detailed plans for our 22 and a half. Now it was 25,000. Now it's down to 22 and a half square foot building. Don't forget, some of it's in the basement. They count it, but it's not really. Our footprint is 12,000 and 12,500 square feet. It's not crazy. We have all the requirements of outdoor space, and we're going to have trees up. We're not going to do something that's not going to allow us to function. It doesn't make any sense.
Rabbi, I wish you a lot of success, a lot of mazel with this. I know it's going to be good. We know it's going to be good. As I mentioned before, yes, Wadner Oj is invited. If he takes us up, I'd be more than happy to arrange this conversation, and again, in a very friendly way. And please keep me in the loop on this. We'll revisit this as often as possible. And
by the way, I would love to hear from Wadner Oj if he had an explanation for what he did. That I would love to hear, and I would love to accommodate something within reason. And by the way, last thing is, Amir Hashem, when you come back to visit in Boston, you'll come for our dedication.
Absolutely, please God, it'd be awesome. So, Rabbi, thanks so much. Have a good Shabbos, and we'll be in close touch.
At least a thought. We have Parshas Pekudei.
Yes. 30 seconds on the Parsha here before we go.
I'll tell you a word from the Rebbe on this Parsha. The last verse in the pasuk in Parshas Pekudei, which ends Shemais, says that the Kianan, the cloud was hovered over the Jews by day and the fire by night. L'chol maseim. The last words are to all their travels. And Rashi right away is troubled because the cloud and the fire were also there when the Jews were in camp, not just when they traveled. So Rashi immediately says that since their encampments were to travel again, it's all part of their journeys. That's what Rashi says. Comes along the Rebbe and says like this, that Rashi's teaching us the most important message. Everyone has obstacles and challenges and struggles in their life. And we get frustrated. We think it's not part of the journey. Why is it happening to me? Why do I need this? Why is this one bothering me? But what Rashi is teaching us is that everything is included l'chol ma'aseyim. Since we're on a journey to serve Hashem, everything we do is part of our journey. And when you look at it that way, you think about Shemos starts off Eila Shemos, which speaks about the Jews going into 200-year exile, and it finishes off l'chol ma'aseyim to teach us that even the exile and the journey was part of the growth and part of what Hashem had planned for us to grow. And only after we finish l'chol ma'aseyim could we say chazak, chazak, v'nis chazek. They will be stronger and stronger, because when we realize and recognize that everything comes from Hashem, and that all our challenges and our struggles and our obstacles and trials and tribulations are from Almighty God and part of our journey in life, then we enjoy the journey and we enjoy every moment of it, and it allows us to spring forward to serve Hashem even better.
Thank you. Yishkoach. Good Shabbos.